find a way to successfully manage your studies. As a student, you should contact UNISA counselors by email to assist and advise you on your career planning and your UNISA studies. Free counseling is provided in 3 different areas to all registered students. Career guidance counseling to help you choose the right qualification in line with your interest, abilities, and personality. Counselors are mainly online. Academic support, assisting students to adjust to the ODA, that is open distance e-learning environment. There are workshops and seminars on how to manage your time, how to deal with work pressures, study skills, and study methods. Personal counseling offers practical and emotional guidance related to personal matters that prevent you from focusing on your studies. So that's it. Remember, all these facilities are here to help you with your studies. No more excuses. We encourage you to make use of these services. And if you still need more information or advice, please drop us an email and we will respond to your request.
Did you know you are now able to book an online session with a student counselor on Microsoft Teams? To make a booking, simply click on the link or scan the QR code provided on our information page, or visit our webpage at www.unisa.ac.za/counseling and click on Contact Us, and then select Make an Appointment. All the available UNISA counseling centers will be displayed in all regions of the country. Select the center closest to you. Scroll down to select a date and time. You may even choose a specific counselor you wish to see. Type in all the required information. This will enable the counselor to assist you in the best possible way. And hit the book button. You will immediately receive an email with the link to join the online session, and also a reminder one day before the session. We hope you will make use of this new service, and we hope you enjoy the workshop session.
Thank you so much, Koketo, for that. Without any further waste of time, good morning, colleagues, good morning, students, and to all our esteemed guests, of course, all the presenters, good morning to all of you. My name is Sharon Tebele. I'm going to be your program director for the day. Now, before I actually lay down some ground rules, I just want to say welcome to the day one of UNISA Accounting Professionals event. This is an event where you'll be equipped and you will learn a lot that maybe you have no idea about. Let me just allow Ms. Dipala, our student counselor, to come and actually allow us to feel warm and welcome in this visual space. Actually, also give us a purpose of the day. I'm not sure if she's already connected. Ms. Dipala, the floor is yours. Make us feel welcome, ma'am. Mr. Pele, can you hear me? Please indicate if you can hear me. I'm not sure whether you're having connectivity issues. Let me just give her a minute or so, and then she will. Yes, she's having connectivity issues. Let me just allow her to give us some warm welcome. Switch on the camera.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, students, program director, staff members, and fellow colleagues. May I, on behalf of UNISA Counseling in Gauteng region, warmly welcome you in our accounting professional workshop. May I give a special thank you to our guest speakers who have accepted the invite in their busy schedule. They never hassle. They're always there for us. I can't wait to listen to them. Thank you, students, for attending the workshop. I strongly believe that you will be equipped at the end of the day. Therefore, the purpose of the workshop will be to empower you so that you can have better financial skills, so that you can be good leaders with financial values, so that you can be able to handle large projects. Remember, during the advent of COVID-19, people were enriching themselves. They were misusing state funds without following the necessary procurement processes. They were stealing from the needy, and most of the pitfalls were seen during COVID-19. Perhaps it was because that they did not know that at the end of the day, they will be audited. Therefore, it is your duty as students to look at things like this. Please take care of yourself, because the people that we have invited today, they are going to empower you. They are going to share with you possible job titles and work environments that are related to the accounting profession. So please stay up until the end of the day so that you can be empowered. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, and over to you, Program Director.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Dipala, for that warm welcome. And actually, for some of us, now we feel a bit relaxed. The anxiety has worn out, and we're ready to engage, right? Can you just show me some love, thumbs up, if you can actually agree with me? Let's just interact, make the visual space so lively. Yes, that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we continue, let me just lay down some ground rules so that we make this process a smooth one, right? Please mute your mics. This helps us to avoid interruptions, especially if you're not the one giving presentations or the one asking a question. Turn off your camera if you're not the one presenting. This also helps us in data efficiency because this is a two-day event. So you would need to actually connect on both days, because the speakers that are going to be here today will not be here tomorrow. So these are different speakers. Although it's a two-day event, we are actually expecting different speakers on both days. Use the reactions provided to you, hence the thumbs up, the love, use those reactions, and always use the function to raise your hand so that we can be able to give you a chance to actually ask a question. And you will be given a 5 minutes Q&A after each and every presenter. This will allow you to engage with all our presenters. And lastly, the recording will be made available after the session. With that being said, I am going to allow Mr. Vusi Mahlangu. Mr. Vusi Mahlangu is from, let me just see, Marketing and Communication Specialist and Finance Sector in the Education and Training Authority. Mr. Vusi, just indicate if you are here so that I can give you the space, sir.
Good morning, I am here.
All right, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction, and just sending greetings to everyone that has joined online. Thank you to the UNISA team for also inviting FACET to participate. I think this is our third time actually presenting at the workshop, so it's really, really great to see that it continues and there's continuous growth every year. So I will be sharing my screen, so I'll just switch off my camera and then just share my screen so that I can present my slides. Okay, if everyone can just confirm if they can see the slides.
Can see.
Thank you. Okay, so FACET is the Sector Education and Training Authority representing the finance and accounting sector. We obviously are part of the 21 SETAs, and we represent, obviously, as mentioned, the finance and accounting sector. So just to start off, just a quick one with regards to what the SETAs are. So the SETAs are engines of skills development within South Africa, and we work with the Department of Higher Education and Training as entities that then identify skills shortages and then facilitate development of initiatives in those respective sectors that we as the SETAs are responsible for. And then ensure that information transformation is fast tracked within those sectors to ensure that there's representation of women of different races, etc. And then also we then use the funding from our skills development levies to then fund the projects that we develop, and then make sure that it is within the sector and learners are supported accordingly. So we work on annual targets, which are agreed obviously with the Department of Higher Education and Training as our overseer. And as I mentioned right in the beginning, that we do have 21 SETAs, and each of these SETAs are responsible for the different sectors. So any sector that you can imagine has a SETA that represents them and ensures that they do have the necessary programs to once again ensure that skills shortages is that gap is bridged, and then also ensuring that there is transformation taking place within that sector. And with FACET, as mentioned right in the beginning, once again, we are the SETA for the finance and accounting services sector. And our main priority is increasing the flow of entrants into the finance and accounting services sector. And our pipeline is curated to respond to the priority occupations or the top 10 scarce skills list, which I will also be presenting today. And this is the list that we then use to make sure that, we are able to create programs that respond to the need that is within the sector. So this, I think, will also help in ensuring that, when you are furthering your studies, or when you are picking a career, or when you are trying to align yourself with what is required within the sector, you kind of have some knowledge of what are the top 10 priority occupations that FACET and the sector are currently focusing on. So at number 1, we do have the external auditor, and I've just placed the OFO codes there just so that there is reference to those particular occupations. And under the auditor, we've also noted that there's specializations that are quite prevalent there, or rather important, such as the forensic auditor as well as the investigator. And then at number 2, we have the management consultant. And in this one, we've seen quite a bit of a change change, noting that, 4IR has taken over, and some of the occupations have, then kind of increased in terms of having specializations that relate to digitization or just ICT related occupations or specializations. And so you will see there that, under management consultant, you also will see that there's an arm for technology development coordinator. You also have the e-commerce program manager, you have the efficiency engineer, and you also have the ICT systems architect as well as the systems programmer. So those are some of the highlighted, or rather the new entries within the 4IR new space that we are in. And then at number 3, we have the accountant in practice, which has actually stayed at number 3 for quite some time now. I've seen that, as we continuously update this list, accountant in practice is always at the top 5. And then at number 4, we have the finance manager, and under its specializations, you will see there that there's the chief accountant, chief financial officer, budgeting manager, etc. I will not go through, all those nitty-gritties, but I can share this presentation at a later stage with the UNISA team to then share with all the people that are in attendance. And then at number 5, we have the financial accountant, which also then has its own, specializations on the right-hand side of the presentation. And then at number 6, we have the tax professional, and under there, the specialization, which is then the tax analyst. At number 7, we have the financial investment advisor, which then also has its own specialization, such as the financial agent, listed securities analyst, as well as the investment research analyst. At number 8, we've got the internal auditor, and going back to, the relationship with 4IR and the finance and accounting sector, we see there that the specialization that has been also now highlighted as quite of high importance is the ICT internal auditor. And then when we move on to number 9, which also reiterates the point of 4IR becoming such a very important I think feature within the finance and accounting sector, you've got the software developer, and these are all the people that then create all the systems that are required within the finance and accounting sector and work as supporting structures. But them being on the top 10 list means that they are of quite importance within the sector, and without them, the sector would not be able to then, transform or move with the times and also be on par with global trends. And then at number 10, we have the compliance officer, which also relates to the financial markets compliance officer, as well as the compliance officer within the financial sector. So that is the top 10 that, we then come up with programs to make sure that we're able to bridge the gap that is within the sector, and also ensure that the people that are already in the sector also get, development, which also then relates to lifelong learning, ensuring that, they remain with the times and that their skills are always on par with what is required by the sector. And then with regards to the programs that I did mention, or rather the curation of the programs, these are the programs that I wanted to present today, as I felt they would be most relevant to the audience today. But our programs are quite a wide array of programs, which also focus on entry level, who we relate to as the learners who are still in high school, doing programs that then enhance their understanding of the finance and accounting sector, all the way up until, people who are at executive level, and ensuring that they are able to also develop themselves beyond what they may have already, ensuring that, their leadership skills are enhanced as well. So we have the first program, which is called the academic support. The program is aimed at assisting at-risk students who are pursuing higher education qualifications, which obviously then are also aligned with the scarce skills within our sector. And we look at mainly the historically disadvantaged public institutions, which include UNISA. They are then eligible for this grant, and they apply directly to FACET for the grant. And then once we have approved their application, we then enter into MOAs with those institutions, and then they manage then the program according to what they've identified as a need within their institution. So it has to be linked with a qualification that is registered on the National Qualifications Framework, which is obviously at a minimum level of 6. And these qualifications have to all, obviously, as I mentioned, be linked to the critical and scarce skills, which were the top 10 that I have mentioned in the slides before. And then the program is designed for learners that have been identified as at-risk learners, and those learners will then be identified by the institution itself. And obviously, they have to be learners who are then at risk based on the qualification that is been approved for them to then manage. And priority is obviously given to learners from rural areas as well as townships. And this is part of our aim to, promote transformation within the sector and ensuring that those who, don't have easy access to information are able to then, get the necessary assistance and help from FACET and its stakeholders. And then we have the bursary program, which is also currently open. The eligible learners should be from a combined household income of 600,000 or below. We do have funding that is for the missing middle, but our key focus is on the learners who come from a combined household income of 600K. And when I say missing middle learners, I mean those who cannot afford to pay for their fees, but also do not qualify for NSFAS. So we do have a funding that then caters for those learners, but it is quite a much smaller pool that we look at there in comparison to the one that I have just mentioned. And we only fund unemployed learners under our bursary program. And the selection is based obviously on the academic merits of the learners. The learner has to obviously, make sure that they are accepted at an institution and they do meet the criteria to go and study at that institution. And once they have, acceptance or registration, then they're able to then, apply for the FACET bursary. And even then, we still then have to look at, how their performance is in order for us to then be able to fund them further. And the learners are funded for the duration of the qualification, and learners are usually given about 4 years in order for them to complete their studies. And so obviously, if your qualification is 3 years, then you have to use those 3 years wisely. And if you do, fail maybe a year, then it would be considered for you to then continue on into the following year. But learners are, tasked to apply every single year to ensure that every year they do have that funding. And then learners should pass most of the modules to be eligible for continuous funding. However, FACET does not fund repeat modules. So that is also related to what I did mention earlier about if you do fail a year, then you are considered rather for funding in the following year. However, we do not fund then the repeat modules that you might have to carry on into that year. So the bursary grant covers tuition fees, textbooks, accommodation, meal allowance, as well as data allowance, and any difference should be used for academic support. So we also do ensure that learners do have tools of trade, and this is also something that we also include as part of our academic support. So tools such as a laptop as well as data, those are things that obviously are relevant at this time, and ensuring that learners who we do then take on to make sure that they have all the necessary capabilities to actually continue with their studies. So as I mentioned, that the bursary is currently open and it is closing on the 31st of August, which is next week. So if you are looking to apply, please definitely do so. The link is on the screen there, but you can also visit us on our website, which is www.facet.org.za, and you will be able to then have easy access to that link. However, you will see there on the screen that I do allude to the https //facetapps.co.za. So it's easier if you're just going to go straight to our website and then click on it, other than just kind of trying to write this down, because it can be quite a handful to write down and then also remember. And then we also have our internship program. So with our internship program, These are professional learning experience that offer meaningful practical work related to students' field of study or career interests. So obviously our internship programs are then also facilitated by employers who are eligible applicants for these grants. So these include the NGOs, CBOs or NPOs, as well as facet employers. And noting that we obviously represent the finance and accounting sector, our employers can also, dip into other sectors. So obviously with every single company in the world, there is a finance and accounting department. So they can apply in order for them to then facilitate these programs. So these are sort of programmed in different ways. So we've got the higher education and training, which also includes an international component, and I will get into that a bit later. And then we also have the National Senior Certificate as well as the National TVET WBE program. So in order for our internships to, take place, TVET college learners, the current MOUs that we have with TVET colleges are utilized for implementation. So in terms of TVET colleges, we then, have MOUs that we sign annually with TVET colleges. And when we then recruit for, the internship program that relates to the TVET learners, we then go directly to those institutions and recruit their learners who have an N6 in whatever qualification that is required for those specific internships. So with our internships that relate to the TVET learners, we fund only management in N6. So those are the financial manager, the assistant manager, the business management, as well as HR management. So those are the ones that we look at in terms of funding under the TVET sector. And then the duration of the programs usually range from 12 to 24 months. And we also have one that is 18 months, which is the TVET program. And then just to get into a bit more detail about the different programs. So the HET, which is a work program, which is also considered the pivotal. This is where an unemployed university graduate is placed for a minimum of 12 months at a facet employer following work readiness training. And then we also have the National Senior Certificate Work Program, which is where unemployed matriculants are funded for placement at a facet employer for a minimum of 12 months following work readiness training. And then the TVET WBE, which I did get into a bit of detail about, is designed for learners from public TVET colleges who have successfully completed an N6 in theory in business studies and are eligible to achieve the national diploma at NQF level 6 upon completion of the 18 months relevant work experience training. So their training is much different because at the end they do get a national N diploma, which is the NQF level 6. And then we also have the professional body program, and these are obviously categorized as pivotal and non-pivotal, where in one you do walk out with a qualification and the other is just for experiential learning. And then this assists learners to complete a professional body qualification or attain a professional designation associated with a scarce skills in the sector. So this is for unemployed learners, and we do these strategic partnerships through MOUs once again, which then focus on scarce and critical skills in the sector and to ensure that there is transformation within the sector as well. So we do focus only on professional body or accredited service providers in order for them to be able to apply for these programs, because obviously these are very, very sensitive programs to ensure that a learner is able to get the necessary experience or the necessary qualification at the end. It has to be one that has been accredited and one that is recognized as a professional body. So professional body qualifications that must be proposed have to be registered on the NQF, and they must be recognized by the SA Qualifications Authority, which is SAQA. So the program must result in the achievement of a professional body qualification or designation. And I've listed here some of the professional bodies that we have under the finance and accounting sector, and those that do run some of our programs under professional body programs. So we've got SICA, SIPA. I think I wouldn't actually have to go through this list. I think a lot of the members that are probably participating today or joining today would be well aware of the different professional bodies and the different routes of actually registering with a professional body in order for them to, at the end, get their professional designations or be recognized as a contributing individual within the finance and accounting sector. So if you do want to get more details on wishing to speak to someone in the grants department, but which grant in particular would you like to get more information about? Because there's obviously a very big team, so it's easier if you know which grant you want to get more articulation on, and then you would be transferred to the necessary person, and that addresses our offices. And obviously with that as well, please make an appointment should you wish to come in, and we will be gladly willing to welcome you. And then I can just hand over to the team to then facilitate the Q&A session if there are any further questions.
Fine, thank you so much, Mr. Vusi. I know that I've learned a lot. I'm just wondering while I'm sitting here, is it too late for me to go into accounting? I don't know, but however, we'll figure that out. To all our students, please note that all your mics have been disabled. So they will be enabled once you raise your hand and indicate that you have got a question to ask. This helps us to control interruptions. If you do have a question for Mr. Mahlangu, it was such a wonderful presentation. I would have a lot of questions. But however, if you do have a question, please raise your hand and my team will assist in enabling your mic, and then you can ask over your question. Going once. No questions? Twice. Sold. Can we just give Mr. Mahlangu a round of applause for such a beautiful presentation, and then we can move on to the next speaker. But before I do, let me just ask Mr. Mahlangu as well to actually share the slides for the application date for bursaries and as well as the required documents, so the student can just take a screenshot of that. So Mahlangu, can you kindly share your screen? They can just take a screenshot. There we go. I advise our students to actually take a screenshot of that because the application date is closing very soon. I mean, it's 31st of August, and that is 6 days to go. Take a screenshot of that, keep it safe, and then you can apply later on. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahlangu, for such a beautiful presentation. I'm sure our students are now sorted. Thank you very much, sir. I'm just going to ask the next speaker. The next speaker is Ms. Boitumelo Gumbu, who is currently a Chief Audit Executive at the Department of Employment and Labor Compensation Fund, and has more than 20 years experience in both external and internal audit. I mean, imagine, she's completed articles and at the Auditor General, completed master's degree in internal auditing at the University of Pretoria, a certified internal auditor, a certified control self-assessor, a certified information system auditor, and of course, an active member of the Institute of Internal Auditors, ISAICA, and Institute of Directors of South Africa. Ms. Gumbo, let me give you the visual space now. Ms. Boitumelo, you're still muted. Let me know if you can hear me on your side, just in case you're having technical challenges, we can assist with that. Okay, let's just give her a minute. Colleagues, can you assist with Ms. Gumbo? In the meantime, I'm just going to move to the next speaker on the item, who's she's struggling to unmute. Not sure as to why, because your mic and camera have been enabled. Maybe my colleagues can assist with that. In the meantime, while they do that, can I just ask Ms. Sipho Khumalo to prepare himself, Mr. Sipho Khumalo, excuse me, to prepare himself for to give us a presentation, and then we can take Ms. Gombo after Mr. Sipho Khumalo. Mr. Sipho, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am.
Let me just give you a proper introduction. Mr. Sipho Khumalo studied BCom in CTA at Rhodes University, then completed his articles with Deloitte Port Elizabeth, was seconded to the ZSAC Republic for 4 months at Deloitte Prague after articles. He worked as an audit manager at Deloitte Pretoria upon returning to South Africa for 2 years. He later moved to Auditor General to work as a strategic operations manager for 2 years before joining the IRBA as a professional manager for more than 5 years. Sir, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. As indicated, my name is Sipho Khumalo. So I'm here to tell you more about the Independent Regulatory Board, what it is and what we do, and how to actually be able to actually join the IRBA. So let me just, I'm going to switch off my camera so that I can be able to present properly. Okay. Please let me know when my screen is sharing.
Yes, sir, it is sharing.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, as indicated, I'm here to talk about the IRBA and who the IRBA is. So the Independent Regulatory Board is a statutory body responsible for actually, let me just put a disclaimer up front, because I'm actually talking to students. So I'm going to try my best to use layman's language to simplify things as we possibly can, because the IRBA is a very specialized entity in a sense that we were formulated based on a statutory act. You might have actually learned about it in your auditing career in something called the Auditing Profession Act. And so I'll try my best to simplify as I possibly can. Okay. So in layman terms, we are responsible to manage all the registered auditors in the country. So registered auditors are the ones that are responsible for signing off financial statements. Okay, so they are trusted members of society who have integrity. So our main mandate as the IRBA is to protect the public, to ensure that auditors are obviously independent, both in mind and in appearance. So what does it mean that we actually get to manage all the auditors in the country? Before I actually get to talk about the departments that we actually have and all of that, in fact, let me do that first. And then after, I'll actually play a short clip that just describes what a registered auditor is. And then I'll talk about how to become a registered auditor. Okay, so we've got 7 departments at the IRBA. The first one, what we actually do, we actually set the standards. So we've actually got a standard department. So if you are a qualified chartered accountant, that's a very highly technical person, you can be able to actually join this department, because all the standards that you're actually learning in terms of all the ISOs, they're actually being set by this department, obviously working with the international bodies together. But we actually regulate all the standards that actually the auditors are using in the country. So there's a department for that you can be able to join once you're a qualified chartered accountant. Then preparing auditors, we've got an education and transformation department, which is the department I sit in. So I'm a manager that's responsible for people that actually become registered auditors in the country. So I manage the audit development program. Okay, so which looks at accrediting professional bodies, only professional body that's registered with us. We are currently working with ACCA to register them. In the pipeline, there's also SAIPA and SAIGA as well, who can actually, their members in future will be able to actually become registered auditor. And again, as I indicated, I'll explain what a registered auditor is. In fact, my clip will explain in detail what a registered auditor is, but just keep that in mind that we focus on registered auditors. So once you're qualified as a chartered accountant, then there's a specialist program called the audit development, excuse me, audit development program within this department. And this audit development program is the program that it's a specialist program, and I'll talk about it later in terms of how does it work. This program enables people to become registered auditors in the country. So this is the department that's responsible for learning so that people can become qualified registered auditor. Then we've got the monitoring standards in terms of inspections. So once you're a qualified registered auditor, there is a department that actually focuses on actually checking the work that was actually done by the auditor. So they actually go to audit firms and inspect the work that was already done to confirm that the auditors are actually complying with those standards that were actually set from the standards department. So they are called inspectors. Again, once you're a qualified chartered accountant, you can be able to actually, with audit experience, you can be able to join that department. Then we've got an investigations department. So once the auditors have actually, unfortunately, messed up, similar to what you'd have seen with your the scandals that happened with Steinhoff and Tongat, etc., impacting Deloitte and KPMG, etc. So we are the ones that will now actually investigate those auditors that were actually found to be wanting. So that department is specific for those qualified chartered accountants that are focusing to hold registered auditors accountable. Then we've actually got the disciplinary section. So that's part of the legal department. Once the investigations are concluded and we found that you are guilty of something, we refer you to the legal department and you go through a disciplinary process where you either get a fine or your membership might be taken away. Then you've got an operations department, which I'm not going to talk a lot about. Okay, so that's just intro into what the IRBA does in a nutshell. But what is a registered auditor? Let me play a short clip that will actually explain that a little bit. Okay. Sorry, just give me a second. I'm actually just talking to the technical guy now. He's responding, so. Okay, seems like I'm not winning on both ends. Let me just continue with my presentation, then I'll stop sharing the video and share the presentation. Okay, all right. So how do you actually get to become a registered auditor? So in order for you to become a registered auditor, at the moment, like as I indicated, we've accredited SAICA as a professional body that can be able to register with us. In 2014, 2015, SAICA changed the way you actually get to qualify to become a CA. We used to actually write what we used to call then Board 2, which was PPE. It was a pure audit paper if you were actually training inside practice to become a registered auditor. And there you would actually write an exam specifically set to test your competence as a registered auditor. Now they have what you actually call APC. APC actually has all the 5 electives ranging from accounting, auditing, tax, MENEC, etc., etc. So because of that, the audit component of it was diluted. So the IRBA couldn't actually figure out how a person can actually become a competent register. They obviously couldn't actually confirm if whether the exam itself will test if someone has actually become a competent registered auditor because of the dilution of the audit element in the exam that was set by SAICA. So now what we're actually doing and focusing on is actually from 2015 we have a specialist program called the Audit Development Program. So how you have to think about the audit program, I always use this analogy of a medical doctor. So once you qualify as a medical doctor, you can become a GP. In order for you to specialize, whether you actually become a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, etc., you have to actually work for a couple of months under the supervision of those specialists and write those specific exams in order for you to be qualified as a competent neurosurgeon or whatever that you're actually specializing in. Similar to a registered auditor, once you're qualified as a chartered accountant and you want to become an auditor, you have to go through a specialist program called the Audit Development Program, which is used to actually test someone's competence through a competency framework to confirm whether they are ready to become a competent registered auditor. So what you need to take from that is that once you qualify as a chartered accountant and you want to become an auditor, you have to go through a program called ADP, the Audit Development Program, which is a specialist program for 18 months. As I indicated, you have to become a chartered accountant. So obviously you need your BCom, you need your CTA, then you need to do your articles, complete your articles, have ITC and APC, and then you'll be ready to actually join us. Okay. So the ADP is actually for 18 months. There's no test, there's no exam. It's actually a specialist program where you actually work as an auditor under the supervision of a qualified registered auditor. So once you're on the ADP, the Audit Development Program, or the specialized program for 18 months, you will be working with an audit partner that will be helping you, that will be guiding you to achieve those competencies that we've actually set for you in your capacity as an audit manager. After 18 months, you compile what we call a portfolio of evidence. This portfolio of evidence will be assessed by specialists in the audit industry. So normally it will be partners at an audit firm or senior lecturers or professors at an academic institution. And then they will actually review your work and confirm whether you can qualify as a registered auditor or not. Okay, that's for a period of 18 months. That's very important to know. Okay. So in terms of the ADP process, I'm just going to tell you a little bit in terms of what we do at the ADP. So once you've actually joined the ADP as a chartered accountant, as I indicated, you must be an audit manager, work for 18 months. You have to submit progress reports every 6 months so that you will know that you're achieving those competencies that you're actually required to achieve in order for you to become a competent registered auditor. If you take long to become a chartered accountant, but you still finished your articles and worked as an audit manager, we allow you to actually get what we call recognition of prior learning, which means that instead of spending 18 months, you can at least spend only 6 months because it's limited to 12 months. So recognition of prior learning is limited to full to 12 months. So we will recognize that learning, and you'll only be on the program for 6 months, where you actually get to submit all the required reports, and those reports at the end will compile what we call a portfolio of evidence, and then you'll actually get assessed by, as I indicated, by qualified people. Then they will confirm that you can become a competent registered auditor. Okay. Is there clarity in terms of how to actually qualify to become a registered auditor? Okay. So once you've actually completed the ADP, now you can be able to actually, you will get a letter that tells you that you've successfully completed the ADP, and then you will actually get to use that letter to register with our registry department, and then there's an administration process that actually takes place. Okay, I don't think this is applicable to you, but those people that actually qualified before 2015, in order for them to become registered auditor, they have to go through what we call a proficiency process, because they've already written that technical audit paper, which was PPE. They now will be assessed via an interview where we've got a list of set questions with a panel of specialists that will be interviewing that particular candidate to assess if whether are they ready to actually become a competent register or not. Okay, all right. So that's it in a nutshell. In a nutshell. Let me see if my technical department can show us that video for now, for a bit, and then I'll take questions. Okay. All right, I'm still not winning on my side, so I'll just take questions for now, and apologies for that.
No problem. Maybe if we can get a space in between the program. My colleague has shared their email in the chat. Just forward the video to them. If we do get a chance like this, we'll play the video, and then it will actually provide some clarity. You know, yeah. But thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Can we just have a round of applause for Mr. Khumalo? Because that was an insightful presentation. Hey, there we go. Thank you so much. We can take questions now. Just indicate by a show of hands, and then we can actually unmute you. And yeah, but before we take questions, let me just check if Ms. Butumela Gombo can actually unmute. Ms. Butumela?
Good morning, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Let me just take questions from Mr. Khumalo, and then we can give you the visual space. Any questions for Mr. Khumalo?
Okay, so I've got it now. So can I just share the video quickly?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Hi there. Do you know what an audit is?
No, I don't.
It's when an accounting expert, known as a registered auditor, gives a formal and expressed opinion on an organization's financial statements. Interesting, right? But what about registered auditors? What do they do? Registered auditors evaluate different companies' accounting systems, procedures, and financial statements. Once they've audited and assessed how financial risks and corporate funding have been managed, they write an audit report. Audit reports are a registered auditor's objective opinion about whether a company is fairly presenting its financial and non-financial affairs. The best part is that only a registered auditor can sign an auditor's report. Snazzy, right? But who gives registered auditors the authority to sign off? That's the IRBA. I bet you're wondering, who's the IRBA? The IRBA is the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors. They're a body that regulates auditing in South Africa. Their functions include helping to create an ethical, value-driven financial sector that encourages investment and creates confidence in the financial markets. They do this by promoting sound practices and holding registered auditors accountable for their work. The IRBA's job is to also grant auditors the role and designation of registered auditor, also known as an RA, once they've completed a rigorous qualifying process, which enables them to sign off on financial statements and express an opinion fairly and accurately. But why all this fuss around auditing? Why is auditing important? Auditing isn't just important to individual organizations. It's vital to South Africa's financial sector because it promotes transparency, accountability, and ethics in business. The auditing process is also key to fighting corruption, protecting the public's interests, and increasing international and local investor confidence. So, now you know that auditing is very important to us as individuals and as a country. Do you want to become a registered auditor with the license to sign?
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Kumelo. I believe now you do have a question from Mr. Tonderai. I'm just going to allow your mic, and then you can unmute from your side and ask away your question. Tonderai Mashiri, please unmute.
Greetings, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Kumalo.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for the comprehensive presentation. It was very insightful. So my question apparently is to say, I heard you saying there's some work to incorporate some other professional bodies like ACCA, SACA to become for their members to actually maybe enroll as registered auditors in addition to the SACA. I think it's a positive development looking at the fact that I think traditionally it has always been thought of the RA space being a closed one. You just have to go through SACA. I think it's a positive development. Maybe my question was just to say, do we have timelines or over which we probably that process is going to be concluded for other professional bodies to actually have their members being eligible to go for the RA designation? Thank you.
So thank you very much for that question. So in terms of SCCA, we are at advanced stages of completing the accreditation process. We're expecting them to be accredited by the 31st of March next year. In terms of SAIPA and SAIGA, they are still in the process because it's quite a lot of work when they do the application. So they have not yet submitted their application, but they've told us of their intention to submit.
Okay, thank you so much. I think you have answered me, because what we had always been seeing is that, okay, for instance, let me use my example. I'm a member of ACCA for quite some time now. When you try to become an RA and you go to SAICA, it's like you're starting from scratch. So you would have invested probably 5 years or so of exams and of articles and all that kind of thing. SAICA does not recognize nothing of it. You will have to start like someone who's coming from grade 12. So most of us had just given up and said, no, look, this is not our space. Let's just leave it like that. So that kind of development is just welcome, I must say. And I think a number of ACCA members and other professional bodies actually share the same sentiments. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the feedback.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sundarai and Mr. Kumalo, for responding to that question. We do have a question also in the chat box from Melissa Duplessis. Just a question. The SCAR skills presented at the beginning of the session, what are the related qualification requirements?
Okay, I think that's a facet question.
Okay, maybe Mr. Vusi Matlango can assist in the chat box with regards to that question, and then we can move on to the next speaker. All right, Mr. Kumalo, thank you so much. Allow me to move on to the speaker. Thank you so much for your presentation. A last round of applause to Mr. Kumalo. Thank you very much. Let me just Ms. Boitumelo Kumbo to the floor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Boitumelo Kumbo. I'm currently a Chief Audit Executive in the Compensation Fund. Thank you for the opportunity to come present. I would request the organizers to share the presentation because I'm using my device. I cannot share the presentation.
All right, no problem. Give me a minute. Colleagues, please share Ms. Guma's presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Mr. Kumalo has already covered part of my presentation as far as what auditors are doing. So my presentation is, can you go to the next slide? The content of my presentation, I'll be covering different streams of auditing and the work of the auditor and challenges faced in the profession and the skills required to be successful in the career of auditing. From the presentation that Mr. Kumalo has covered in the video, I think he covered the external audit stream. So in my presentation, can you go to the next slide? Okay, sir. In my presentation, I have identified different streams of auditing. Mainly, I've identified the core auditing streams that are regulated by different institutes. The external audit stream, which is regulated by SICA, internal audit stream that is regulated by the IIA, and the forensic auditor stream, which is regulated by the ACFE, which is the Associate of Certified Fraud Examiners. So Mr. Kumalo has covered the external audit stream, which are independent auditors which are not working for the organization, and they give an opinion which makes the investors, the government agencies, and the public companies to rely on their report because of the accreditation as indicated by Mr. Kumalo in his previous presentation. And for the internal audit, the internal auditors are typically appointed to review the policies, legal compliance, operations, processes, and the financial statements of the organization. They are basically work within the organization. And what they normally do is to check the misalignment in the organizational funds. They identify ways to improve the processes and to eliminate wastage and fraud in the organizations. And we have different categories within internal audit, which includes IT auditors. I think Mr. Vusi Matlango has already identified the IT audit as part of the critical skills because of the transformations that are happening in the organization. So for the internal audit function to be relevant and up to date. We have IT auditors, we have performance auditors, we have compliance auditors, and we also have financial auditors as part of the focus areas. And the other stream is the forensic auditors. The forensic auditors, they use their combined knowledge of the accounting and finance, and they do investigation to determine if the activities are illegal. So they normally work closely with the law enforcement to make sure that they perform witnesses in the investigated cases. And they also attend court cases to verify or to confirm the accuracy of the reported issues in their reports. And the work of the internal auditor, I've also, can you go to the next slide, Roberto? The work of internal auditors, I've splitted the work within the streams. So I will not touch more on the external audit because Mr. Vusi has already touched that. On the internal audit, the internal auditors provide objective assurance and consulting services, and they design to add value to the organization's operation. And they help organization achieve their objective. They bring systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of governance, risk management, and control processes. So what they normally do is they review the organization as a whole, looking at all processes from the governance part up until the controls, all the controls within all the spaces in the organization. And the forensic, their function is mainly to combat corruption, asset misappropriation, and financial statement fraud through the investigation of records to derive the evidence which can be used in the court. So they work closely with the law enforcement, as I indicated previously. So basically that is the work of the auditors. We are actually specialists tasked with the reviewing of the validity, the completeness, and accuracy of organizational records. And in some instances, we do serve as advisory role to make a recommendation on cost saving and risk management measures. The next slide. The challenges that we are facing in the profession as auditors, there is the increased level of assurance due to the changes that are happening in the organization, technology, globalization, and constant increase in the complex laws and regulation and standards. They cause us to have an increased level of assurance. I think Ms. Dipale, in her opening presentation, she mentioned the COVID environment where the work of the auditor, there was an increased level of assurance. I think even the president requested auditors to provide assurance in terms of the COVID compliance. So those changes causes an increase in the level of assurance. And as auditors, to mitigate that, we keep abreast with what is happening in the profession so that we remain relevant and up to date. Then we collaborate with other assurance providers through combined assurance so that we are able to provide the assurance that is required from our stakeholders. And there is also a challenge where there is credibility crisis for the auditing profession. For those who keep up to date with what is happening in the profession, all the governance collapse. When there is a corporate governance collapse, they ask, where were the auditors? When there are business failures and there are fraudulent activities in the organization, they ask, where are the auditors? And this causes the credibility of auditing profession to be challenged. But how we mitigate that is to maintain our integrity as auditors and to continue to have the courage to report any wrongdoing and to identify, to be able to confront issues as we see them and have difficult conversation with management as we see the issues that are happening in our organizations that we're auditing. And the other challenge is the cost of performing audits have increased significantly. So because of the credibility crisis in the audit profession, you find that as a professional auditor, you want professional indemnity insurance before you do your job. And there is a lot of technology costs that are increasing to make sure that you are efficient in your audits. So these are the challenges that we're experiencing, and how we mitigate the cost. One, we focus on the value add in all the services that we're providing to our stakeholders. We ensure that there is value add and we have justification for the increase in cost, because organizations, they pay for value. So if we focus on value, then we are able to substantiate the increasing in the cost. And the other one is we continue to be efficient through automation. We automate our processes so that we are able to be efficient in providing the required assurance. The next slide, sorry. These are the skills that are required to be successful. The list is not conclusive, but I highlighted the key ones. In terms of communication, as an auditor, not necessarily internal auditor, you need to have a strong communication skills, because as auditors, we communicate recommendations, we communicate the challenges that we identify in the organizations that we're auditing. So without strong communication skills, you cannot make it in the profession, because what you convey should make sense to your stakeholders. And the other critical skill is emotional intelligence. As an auditor, we need to know ourselves. Like self-awareness is very key, that we need to know your strengths and your weaknesses and capitalize on your strength in executing your responsibility. And you need to know how to manage yourself, so that, for example, when you are presenting issues, you'll be confronted, you'll be challenged. As an auditor, you need to self-manage, know how to manage your emotions, to be calm at all times and be objective in the presentation of your issues. And you need to be socially aware of what is happening around you and the different people that you're working with, so that you use different techniques to work with different people. And there is also relationship management, which is also key as part of emotional intelligence, because as a profession, as you go up the levels, the issue of managing relationship becomes key, and you need to be able to manage relationship with all stakeholders. And the other skill is critical thinking and business acumen. Critical thinking, you need to be able to understand the logic to find a solution, and also understand the bigger picture. In terms of business acumen, you need to have a deeper understanding of the business environment that you're auditing, and understand their operations, the complexity of their processes, so that you're able to identify the risks and assist them to mitigate those identified risks. The other key professional skill is the professional skepticism. As an auditor, you need to have a questioning mind, so that you critically assess the evidence that is provided to you as an auditor, and question what the processes as a whole. And you need to have the ability to ask the so what question, because sometimes they will provide things. When you are not critically asking questions, you end up not adding value in your audits. The other skill is resilience. in terms of resilience, as auditors, you need to be able to withstand adversity and be able to bounce back. Because being an auditor, it's actually a difficult task because you confront issues which management is unable to openly talk about them, or sometimes management hides those issues. But as an auditor, you need to have the ability to confront that. And in the confrontation, you experience resilience from management, or you experience difficulties in where management in the engagement, or they can even not maybe take what you are saying, but having the courage to stand for what you believe in and be able to remain calm, even when you are not agreeing with management, not trying to conform, but to stand for what you believe in as an internal audit, as an auditor, it's very key. And the other skill is creativity. For us as auditors, when we come to the organizations, they are expecting us to provide solutions. And you cannot provide solutions if you are not creative. We need to have the ability to think outside the box so that we are able to provide the solutions in the organizations that we're auditing. And the other skill, which is the last one that I've identified, is data analytics skill. We need to be able to have the ability to pull the data together, to run reports, and gain greater insight to identify gaps and mitigate the risks proactively for the organizations that we are auditing. So this brings me to the end. The logic behind this last slide is, in summary, what we are doing as audit. The pudding there where it's mixed up represent the organizations where controls are not working effectively, where you cannot identify what governance is and what are the processes that are in place. So once the audit is done, that is the picture on your right, where we have all the controls put in place. You see everything falls into place and you know where to find what. That's when the audit is done. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Gumbo. I just felt hungry the moment I saw that picture. I don't want to lie to you, but then the explanation and the analogy behind it just made me say, wow, oh, okay. Yeah, but thank you so much, Ms. Gumbo. We are taking questions, but before I do that, let me just read the question in the chat from Olga. Saika is not here, but however, I'm going to ask our previous presenters if they can actually respond to Olga. It would really be helpful. Olga is saying that I would like to find out from Saika that I am a refugee here in South Africa and have valid document, and it's going to be renewed in 2025, the year 2025. I've been applying for the training at various organizations, but they are saying as of they cannot take us as of now. Please advise if there will be any changes anytime soon, or we must just forget and stop applying. Previous speakers, if one of you would actually be able to respond to Olga, I would really appreciate that. Indicate if you can. If you can't, just please think about it. Maybe if you can, respond in the chat. However, Saika is not going to be here today or tomorrow. We did not get any responses from Saika, unfortunately. But however, if one of our colleagues can respond to that, it will really be helpful. In the meantime, we are going to student feedback. So we're going to do this feedback twice just to avoid exhausting our students. If my colleagues can actually be ready with the 12 questions, this feedback helps us to actually improve on our workshops and to actually give you what you students require, because this workshop, it's actually student orientated. So this feedbacks will help us to improve on our next coming annual event. Colleagues, please pose the first question. So these will be poll questions posted in the chats, or maybe they can pop up on your screen, and then you just respond to it. So the first question reads as follows: all your responses will remain anonymous. Please note that. So to what extent do you agree with the following statement? The information provided was relevant to our own context, work, or studies. So there you just click agree, neutral, or disagree, and submit vote. I'm seeing responses, 7 responses now going up, 11 now going up. Okay, we're on 50 now. Okay, keeps going up. In the meantime, let me just ask, there is another question in the chat box from Grace. I would like to know, should one start applying for training contract when having diploma and currently busy with a degree? Okay, Miss Gumbo. Ms. Gumba is still with us. Who is asking if one would like to know that if they are currently busy with their degree, but they have a diploma, can they start applying for training contract?
Thanks, Grace, for the question. In terms of the training contract, I think for internal audit, the requirement is a diploma, and there are organizations that are offering training program within internal audit, but it's not the same as the SAICA one. For the internal audit, it's a 2-year program, and for SAICA, I think it's a 3-year program. And there are, I think you can check with also the auditing firms or the accounting and auditing firms that are registered with IRBA to determine if they are offering any training contracts within their organization. That can also assist. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that response. Let me know if you have been answered. Thumbs up if you have been answered, Grace. All right, thank you so much, Grace, for that. We are actually still posting the poll questions. I'm seeing we have got 21 responses on the last question. I'm just waiting to actually see the last question responses picking up, and then we can move on to the next speaker. The last question is asking, it's actually a typing question. It's saying, what did you learn from the workshop? So I only have one response for now, so we cannot move on to the next presenter, unfortunately, because we would like to know where you're lacking. Okay, I'm giving you 2 minutes to actually respond to that. Any other question in the meantime? Okay, responses are picking up. I'm happy with that. Okay, then there's Robert. Let me just disable your mic, Robert, and then you can ask your question. You can ask your question, Robert. Okay, your hand is down again. I'm guessing you've got clarity. All right. If you are unable to actually, some people have anxiety in asking questions, you know, even visual spaces can be actually be a challenge to some people, you know, so maybe you're not able to comprehend that. You can just type it in the chats, you know, and we'll read it out loud and our colleagues will help respond to that question. All right, so the last question that I'm going to take is from Zusani. This one, sorry, that. Robert?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. I think I'm more in a similar page as Olga with SAICA, in a sense that what is SAICA's stance now? I think in correlation with IRBA, if I want to be a registered auditor, in a sense that I've got like 17 years worth working experience in accounting. So my question is, will I still be needing to go the article route let alone, I mean, I've been when the auditors are coming on a yearly basis, I'm in the forefront of gathering information and whatnot. So my question clearly is, I want to find out, will I still need to do the articles, let alone I've got 17 years experience in accounting and finance. Thank you.
Ms. Gumbo?
Thanks. I think on the question from Robert, I suggest that you direct your question straight to IRBA, and for Olga to direct the question to SAICA, because they are an independent organization and I cannot respond on their behalf. But I believe you will get your answers there. Thank you.
Okay, maybe Mr. Masango is still in our midst. He can assist with that. Oh no, Mr. Kumelo from IRBA, Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors. Are you still with us there? Did you catch the question? Or would you like Robert to repeat, and then he can also get clarity? I don't think he's in our midst. Okay, Robert, if you can type it in the chat, and maybe when he comes back, maybe he's having technical issues, then he can respond to that question. Thank you so much, Ms. Kumba, and thank you, Robert, for that question. Sometimes our questions actually provide clarity to some of our students, our colleagues, because you find that you're not actually thinking about it, but immediately when someone asks the question, you're like, yes, that is what I wanted to know, But thank you so much for that, Robert. Thank you so much for all your participation. It's so amazing, and I want to express my gratitude. With that being said, thank you so much for actually participating on the polls. The responses are actually making me happy. It's 35, so we can do better than that. But however, let me just go move on to the next person on the agenda. Our next speaker on the agenda is Ms. Maite Deshabani, who's from Chartered Accountants Professionals, is a professional, is a young, dynamic individual with a mindful for solutionist thinking, who's passionate about understanding and responding to clients' needs. She's also skilled at interrogating and translating numbers into insights, using her expertise in non-banking financial institute within global markets at a leading corporate investment bank to service some of South Africa's largest and non-banking financial institutes. And she's an experienced in financial accounting and audit, having worked in the technology, media, and telecommunication industries, which is TMT, and a health fitness advocate at heart, and a globetrotter in her spare time. Amazing compilation there. Let me welcome Ms. Maite Deshabani to the visual space. Ms. Maite, the visual space is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm just struggling to put on my camera. It's not allowing me.
There we go. We can see you. Thank you.
Perfect. Good morning to the UNISA Counseling Unit fellow speakers, and most importantly, all the students that have dialed in today. As previously mentioned, I am Maite Deshabani, and I'm incredibly honored to be invited as a speaker for this workshop. I sincerely hope by the end of my time here with you all today that there will be at least one key takeaway for you. Right, let's get into it. Please let me know if you can see my presentation on your side.
Not yet. Something is coming up. Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to pop up on my side. It's still loading. Okay, for some odd reason, I can't see it on my end. So let me just, oh, there we go. All good to go?
Thumbs up. Yes, we are.
Okay. I just need you to confirm, is it still in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today I'll be sharing the insights and challenges of being a CA. This is a wonderful area for me to delve deeply into because I believe that as I go further in my career and entrench myself in the CA space, I become more and more reflective. So it has certainly been a path of continuously taking stock, of which I would love to share with you. As a start, becoming a CA was anything but smooth sailing for me. The road was convoluted, bumpy, and riddled with potholes. It took me 4 years to obtain my 3-year undergraduate degree and 3 years to acquire my 1-year postgraduate qualification. What is conventionally known as a 7-year journey to qualifying as a CA took me 10 years. Now, in the greater scheme of things, 3 more years kind of seems like nothing, right? And I can definitely appreciate it as such now that I'm on the other end of it. But at the time, the day-to-day reality of it was absolutely brutal because life's teachings are lived in retrospect, right? We go through the trenches before we reach the light at the end of the tunnel. I think everyone who's taken the scenic route, and I say this in inverted commas, on this journey has reached at least one crossroads where you're forced to confront the sobering reality of whether to continue along the path or to change course. That moment for me was after I failed my CTA for the second time around. My bursar at the time, which was one of the big 4 audit firms, had stopped funding my studies after the first failed attempt. And for obvious reasons. I mean, the minimum requirements by which I was contractually bound were not met. Hence, my God-sent single-parent mother took it upon herself to take on the financial burden that year. But there I still was, 2 times unlucky, so close yet so far from the finish line. I was shattered. Accounting was what I had chosen, and it was what I had been eating, breathing, and sleeping for 6 consecutive years. I couldn't possibly imagine doing anything else. I had put all my eggs in this one basket, and rightfully so. When you enroll in varsity, you don't necessarily go into it thinking, well, if I'm going there for X, I'm going there for X, but if X doesn't work out, I'll have Y and Z as my contingency plans. From a career standpoint, this was probably my first real inflection point. In as much as the CA route is 7 years, because of the complexity of the course and the demanding nature of it, in the accounting fraternity, there's an unspoken concession for stumbling blocks along the way. We are used to falling and getting back up very quickly to try again. The challenge, however, comes in when we stumble at the same point more than once, because I think this is where the psychological weight starts to creep in thick and fast. I recall a conversation with a family member, a qualified CA, where he asked whether I was sure about this. And listen, at that point, my self-doubt was shot and hanging by a thread. Any signs of doubt from others, especially loved ones, could potentially crush me. The self-assured, confident Maite couldn't answer this question for the very first time. I no longer believed with conviction, let alone believed that this was the path for me. And let's be honest, with anything in life that has cost you blood, sweat, and tears, the mere thought of letting go and aborting the mission is heartbreaking. But the simple beauty of life's big decisions is that we do not have to make them immediately. There is so much power in the passage of time. I do not know what exactly clicked in me, but what I do know is that giving myself the time and the space to mull over that big decision was the catalyst for what brings me here today. One thing I believe with every fiber of my being is this: when you want something, and I mean truly want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. My entire career to this point is testimony of this. The moment I made the decision to give it one last shot, everything else fell into place, but not without a fair amount of even more hard work and sacrifice on my part. The company of a kind business partner, may his soul rest in peace, to a family member, committed to funding my studies that year. And for one solid year, I buried my head deep into the books. One could almost say it had become my obsession. I did not go out, and I turned down all social invitations. For a social being like myself, that was far from easy. It felt as though I had dropped from the face of the earth. But the constant reminder was just how much was at stake. The way I viewed it was as follows: every single small decision of mine was either pro my desired educational outcome or against it. It was that simple. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear writes about the compounding effect of good habits. He states, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement, the same way that money multiplies through compound interest. Effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. And shown here is a diagrammatic view of how small habits compound over time. Fast forward to the end of that year, to not only coming out victorious, but securing a top 15 position in my year. Although a thing of the past, I still have inhibitions about those 3 extra years. More so when I was completing my articles, where I was slightly older than my peers. But in hindsight, the fact that I was a little bit older afforded me the maturity that helped me navigate the choppy waters of articles. I thought varsity was challenging until I experienced articles, by far the most difficult 3 years of my career. In my view, it is very unfortunate that a CA having practiced articles for, say, 10 plus years ago can still relate to the experiences right down to the finest detail of today's article clerks. I think it speaks to the very essence of the non-progressive environment and lack in structural reform at the Big Four audit firms, which by and large is not conducive to trainees from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. And by that, I am referring to the Black child. My first taste of economic disparity in the workplace was the realization that as a Black trainee coming from a middle-class upbringing, my salary could only comfortably afford me a car or rent. I chose the former. And while home was in Pretoria, my main client was located in Randburg, which meant on average a 120-kilometer daily commute for a big chunk of the year. You may say, but weren't you receiving a travel allowance? To which I'd agree. But what we fail to acknowledge is the timing difference of these events. I was incurring petrol costs now and receiving a travel allowance later. That inadvertently creates a cash flow issue. The reality for most of my white counterparts was very different, with home being Joburg for a lot of them, as well as cars and or apartments fully paid off, all made possible by generational wealth, right? Yet, despite the stark contrast between the two demographic groups, the high performance expectations remained the same. This is but one example of many socioeconomic issues I was advocating for during my time in audit. I don't think firms prioritize the importance of the need to solve for these things. These seemingly small issues have far-reaching consequences for an organization, from low staff morale right up to retention issues. Audit was never really for me, and I knew this from the early stages, but I stayed on as a manager nonetheless. One thing I will always thank my audit experience for is the strong work ethic it's instilled in me. A strong work ethic is something you'll carry with you wherever you go. I was listening to a podcast the other day, an episode of Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO. He was interviewing ClassPass founder Payal Kadakia. She spoke to the importance of always doing good work, no matter where you are, a concept coined as invisible PR. This had me thinking back to my last days in audits in a conversation with the CEO, where he told me that if I ever wanted to come back, the door was wide open. Whether or not you receive recognition for the work you do, know that your work and attitude speak for you in rooms where you are not even present. Do not burn bridges. Just over a year ago, I moved over to financial service and into the corporate and investment banking space. True to form, I penned a reflective piece on my 1-year anniversary of joining the bank. It went something like this. LinkedIn reminded me of my work anniversary the other day, and all I can say is this. What a time to be alive in this exhilarating and fast-paced environment. I recall back to the end of 2020 and just how badly I wanted to be here, repeatedly discouraged by recruiters for a whole host of excuses masquerading as valid reasons. They only take the best of the best. No financial services experience. At the time, I only had technology, media, telecoms, known as TMT, audit clients under my belt. Or why don't you try financial reporting instead? But that was not what I wanted. I wanted more. Wanting more didn't come without its challenges. We don't speak candidly enough about the turmoil that is new starts. New career, new job, new role, new organization, new culture, new team. The list is endless. Not to mention all whilst under lockdown. I was pulling double shifts, getting through the workday because if we are to be completely honest, when the honeymoon phase is over and reality sets in, it becomes more about survival. And I was spending my evenings making sense of what on earth happened in the workday. The learning curve is steep and the process is excruciating. Every step forward felt like it was followed by 2 steps back. For someone who thrives off being in control, this experience was one of many inflection points. There truly is magic on the other side of letting go and just surrendering. I was humbled, yet I was strengthened and grew in ways I thought unimaginable. Fast forward to just over a year later at the bank, with a portfolio of some of the largest non-banking financial institutes in the country. Grateful for my line manager who has consistently taken a chance on me from day one. Looking forward to seeing what the rest of my journey at the bank has in store, especially under the new leadership of a woman. A friendly reminder to self. 1, I am among the best of the best. 2, a recruiter's opinion, or anyone for that matter, is not my truth. And 3, the more someone tells me I can't do something, the more likely I will one day turn around and show them exactly how it's done. So back yourself. This post was my raw and unfiltered thoughts of the highs and lows of new career beginnings. And to my shock, this post amassed over 100,000 impressions. As CAs, we are often viewed within the limited frame of our educational training, which leads to recruiters and the like trying to pigeonhole us into certain jobs and careers. But what the broader community don't seem to grasp is that our background is as much about technical skills as it is about critical thinking. And I would say we have ourselves partly to blame for the public perception. I think once we leave varsity, we find comfort in the technical know-how of our chosen career fields and forget to nurture our problem-solving capabilities, which is something Ms. Kumbu also touched on. To be leaders in society, we need to be well-versed in both technical skills and problem-solving. So when you qualify, I encourage you to view that milestone as the start of an entirely new journey, one of intellectual curiosity and commitment to continuous evolution. The world is your oyster. Thank you.
Wow. What an inspiring presentation. I can only say wow. I'm seeing the round of applause that you have been given, the love you've been given. This is amazing. Thank you so much, my dear, for sharing your journey with us. It has been inspirational, it's been moving. I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt like crying when you were sharing. This just proves that journey to success is a very bumpy road, for anyone as well. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. There are a lot of comments for you, and also a hand. Okay, a hand.
Thank you so much for all the love. I appreciate it. How would you like us to do?
Okay, I'm just going to you, then we will ask, and then you can respond to it. Okay, Busan, you can unmute. Busani, please unmute and then answer the question.
I'm sorry, I think I was reacting to the presentation and I mistakenly pressed the raising hand.
Oh, okay. All right, that's not a problem. Yeah, there are a lot of comments, and it actually doesn't seem like there is a question for you. Only comments about how they are inspired, because I know I'm literally moved. I was going, oh God, I'm sweating, and it's actually freezing in the val that I am sweating. You know what, Maite, thank you so much for sharing your journey. This does not only relate to accounting, but the journey to success altogether. Education is just tricky, it's challenging, because sometimes you comprehend academic, personal, family, all of that, and person. Trust me, you survived it, and now we're looking for the actual product of it. Thank you so much, Maite.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Please allow me to move on to the next speaker. Okay, does seem like there's a question after all. Let's see. The question is, do you think, okay, from Notolo Mtolo, Lishaban, well done. My question is, do you think it's a good idea to do your articles and postgrad qualification at the same time?
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Sharon.
Okay, the question is from Notolo, right? He or she is asking, okay, it's starting with a comment, say well done to the presentation. But the question reads as follows: do you think that is a good idea to actually do your article and postgraduate qualification at the same time?
Personally, no. And this is just purely based on my experience. I mean, as I've shared, it took me 3 years to complete my CTA, the first of which was full-time, the second of which was part-time. And when I decided that, I need to give it my all, because this was going to be my last attempt, I went back to full-time. And it was only full-time that allowed me to plow all of my energy, effort, and focus into it. I don't think I would have managed if my focus and priorities were split. So in my personal opinion, I would not do articles and postgraduates at the same time. However, I do appreciate that sometimes you don't really have a choice. And if at all you do land up in that position, then, you do what it takes to make it work. It won't be easy though, because CTA in itself is a beast of its own, and articles in and of itself is a whole other beast of its own.
Okay, thank you so much. In a layman's terms, so articles are a full-time job.
Sorry?
Are you saying articles is a full-time job, basically?
I'm struggling to hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it gets a little bit faint.
I'm not sure as to why. I don't think I'm having connectivity challenges. However, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I was asking, from your comment to respond to that question, I'm saying basically serving articles is more like a full-time job.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that becomes challenging.
And just to, as a caveat also, articles is not your typical 9 to 5. When it's busy season, you are going in 8, 9, and you are most likely leaving the client premises at 1, 2 in the morning. So you also need to be cognizant of that, because that inadvertently takes time away from your studies.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Michael, for that response. We do have a hand. Dwayne Robin, please unmute.
Morning all, can you hear me clearly? Hello?
Yes, Dwayne.
Oh, hi. So that was a very nice presentation you gave. It was quite inspirational. I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I commented a bit earlier today saying that I currently have a national diploma in internal auditing. Then I moved over to UNISA, currently doing an advanced diploma in management accounting. So I feel like the position I'm in, it's like all around where the real thing I want to do is be part of SECA and become a chartered accountant. But now I feel like everything that I've done so far is kind of against that goal. I have sent a few questions to UNISA asking whether or not the advanced diploma that I'm currently doing would allow me to do the CTA next year, but I'm still waiting answers on that. But I think my main question to you is, I'm also kind of reaching my older 20s. And so the age gap, I do feel a bit worried about that going into the article training. I think knowing that people's coming straight from university at that time, being 21, 22, and yeah, I'm coming 30-year-old person. And also what's scaring that I saw you said that one of your obstacles was being a Black woman. And like with me, I'm part of the LGBTQ community. So now it's a bit scary. Not knowing what to expect, how would I be treated or anything like that. So can you maybe shed some words of encouragement there?
Sure, thank you for that question. Very important question in today's time. So firstly, I think that to your first question, you aren't in control of your environment and the age you are entering into that environment. I think you need to accept that and not forget what you're going there for. There will obviously be differences between yourself and someone coming straight out of varsity, but at the end of the day, everyone is there for a sole purpose and for a common goal. So if you just focus on that and you put your head down and you graft, the 3 years will fly by. And to your second question, what I recall from my time in audit is the focus on creating awareness and acceptance for the LGBTQI+ community and encouraging people to become allies. So if there is a time that is fitting or fit for purpose for yourself that is part of the community, I would say that the time is now. I don't think that's something that you should necessarily worry about, because a lot of organizations are taking a stand with the community. I hope that answers all of your questions.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, thank you so much for response and question, Dwayne. I'm going to take 2 questions. Okay, there's a link on the let me start with Tamsana. Unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Maite. Thanks. It's Tammy. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for motivational talk. You know, we're very motivated. My question is more based on the transition that you just made from working so hard in attaining your accreditation as a CA, and now you've decided that you're not gonna follow that route, and now you've changed into investment banking. What made the decision, and what motivated it? Because you've put so much work in becoming, this thing, and now you diverted all of a sudden. So it's a bit puzzling. So I just want to find out what made the transition, and how can you make a transition from one career to the next. Thank you.
Thanks. I was anticipating a question like that. So the thing is, because of the varsity focus on your 4 majors, auditing, financial reporting, tax, management, accounting, and finance, we enter the workspace with very, how do I put it? Tunnel vision, right? And we think that those are the only 3, 4, 5 spaces that we can go into. But I think this is forgetting what the educational background has equipped us with, which is very much critical thinking. So for me, I don't see this as a deviation. I see this as a step into my path and my calling. What's interesting is that in varsity, I never really liked finance, and I thought it was challenging, unnecessarily challenging. And my views on working at a bank were, I would never work in a bank. I think it's so boring. But it's interesting how I've come full circle, and I got to a point where all I wanted was to get into a bank, right? And when you enter the banking space, you see just how many CAs there are. I think there are more CAs than anything else. There are also a lot of engineers, because the banking space wants critical thinkers, right? And CAs come from a background of critical thinking. But we shy away from those spaces because problem solving and critical thinking is uncomfortable. There isn't an immediate answer. It's not black and white. But we shy away from that because, we are inherently technical people. But we forget that our background is actually 2-pronged. Yes, a lot of the focus was on technical skills because at the end of the day, you need to prove your competence, right? But in getting there, it is also testing your critical thinking. So me going into this path was me finally taking a step in my calling and in the direction that I am passionate about. And I feel like I'm where I belong. And also having the CASA accreditation for me, especially as a Black woman, is somewhat of, I view it as a tool that, before I enter a room, my competence is already introduced. Not to say that I have my work cut out for me and my job is done. No, I still need to work 10 times as hard as anyone else to prove my strength. But it's nice to know that, the minute I enter a room or I join a meeting, a little bit about my competence is already spoken for.
Thank you. Thanks. That covers everything. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. We do have a hand from Robert Kaduka. I will go the last hand.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Ms. Leshabane. I earlier asked, thanks for the inspiration. I must be honest, I'm one of the people also, if I can share to the group, that I was told that I will never be, I was literally fired as an accountant trainee back in the days, but it's a long story. But my question is that I have for you, and I asked it earlier, is that in my case, I've got 17 years solid experience in accounting and finance. So if I want to venture into the CA route, will I still be needing to be doing the 3 years articles? And why am I asking that? Like I've said, for the past 17 years, I've been being the forefront with the internal audit, the management accounts. I'm preparing for the entity, your provisional tax, your IT voting. I'm the one who's in charge of that. Will I still be required to do the articles for 3 years, if I may ask, if maybe you have the knowledge about it? And thanks again.
Thanks for your question. However, I think I may not be the right person suited to answer. I do encourage you to perhaps reach out to SAICA.
Will do.
Because the SAICA and the training officers, being the accounting firms, work very closely together. So if there's anyone most suited to answer, it would be the governing body themselves.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Right, we have to end of our session. But thank you so much, Ms. Maite, for such a moving and inspirational presentation. Just allow me to move to the last speaker. Yeah, people are showing me some love. However, let me move to the last speaker, who is Ms. Kiba Ramushwana, who is in an internal presenter. Ms. Kiba is an COD at UNISA Department of Financial Governance, and she will be touching on accreditation of qualifications in UNISA College of Accounting Science. Ms. Kiba, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and thank you to your colleagues to afford me the opportunity. Am I audible, Program Director?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Thank you so much. I'm just presenting, but not at a comfortable space as I'm attending Senate today. So I just excuse myself to do the presentation. And the issue of accreditation, I'm not going to, I don't have slides. I didn't prepare the slides, but I'm going to talk about the reality around accreditation for UNISA. First and foremost, I've joined for the last few minutes and I have had some few questions and I've responded to Dwayne's question on the chat. If Dwayne, you can check on the chat, I've shared some information there pertaining to you wanting to branch into the CA stream. The email address is there for you to contact the relevant people. The accreditation issue has been a thorny issue for most of us, as I think most of you would have noticed it in the media reports. And what's happening is that at the moment, as we speak, the dust has sort of settled down, but the dust has settled down precisely because there has been communication both from UNISA as well as from SAICA, which is the accreditation body. The relationship between UNISA and SAICA is a normal relationship, which is the same relationship that is shared by other universities with SAICA. And our accreditation is solid. As I'm speaking to you today, UNISA is accredited by SAICA. So for my colleagues, I would refer the students today as colleagues because I want you to look at that word colleague and aspire to be in the same space that I am in. And I've listened to Maite sharing her journey with you colleagues, and it's something that is inspirational. And then I hope that all of you who are aspiring to be future chartered accountants or future professionals within the space of industry and commerce would look at that as an inspiration. So what is happening is that our accreditation is solid. The SAICA visit that happened or that took place in 2021 took place as part of the normal accreditation process. So SAICA came to do the normal inspection that they would do within the normal accreditation process. And upon their inspection or visit to UNISA, they have identified certain areas of concern, and those areas of concern have been identified and communicated to UNISA via a report, which is a normal report that SAICA would produce after the visit to the university. So in that report, as I alluded, that there has been some concerns. The concerns have been raised in detail, and UNISA had to attend and respond to those concerns. The response has been submitted in a report form from the University of South Africa, from the Office of the Vice Chancellor, as it is a normal process. The Vice Chancellor of the university had to obviously get the report, which was coming mainly from the College of Accounting Sciences, as the college is the custodian of the programs on behalf of the university. And then that report was submitted to SAICA on the 30th of June 2022. Upon the report being received by SAICA, on the 27th of July 2022, our college, which is College of Accounting Sciences, had a strategic workshop, and then one of the agenda items was the SAICA accreditation, and we had a representative by the name of Ms. Mandy Oliver from SAICA who came and addressed the issue of accreditation. Mandy was purely just touching on the basis of the report that has been sent to SAICA, and Mandy was just giving us the light as to how far they are with going through our report. The report is a detailed report which was responding to some of the few issues that SAICA had highlighted, but those issues were not the issues putting any threat or danger to the accreditation. So I'm sitting here today reassuring the UNISA alumni as well as the UNISA colleagues, being our students, that our programs are accredited, and you might have also been able to get the response that was shared by the SAICA CEO, Mr. Freeman Nomvalo. He had an engagement on Radio 702, as well as another engagement on Power FM, where he was alluding and confirming that the SAICA accreditation is solid at UNISA with the programs. Now, there has been one of the thorny issues that emanated from that report was around the decline in the pass rate for ITC, which is the first board exam that the students write when they have passed CTA and starting now their journey of becoming chartered accountants. So that first board exam, which is the ITC, the pass rate for the past 3-4 years has been declining for our UNISA candidates. And as such, UNISA has done an investigation, and UNISA is continuing to do a further investigation into what really causes the decline. So that further investigation that I'm saying UNISA, through the College of Accounting Sciences, has undergone, it's via a research where a scholar, one of the renowned scholars, has been tasked with doing that deep analysis so that we can understand what are those qualitative factors which are leading to us getting a decline in the ITC pass rate. And then one of the issues that we are encountering at the university currently, which is just one of the contributing factors, is the lack of engagement with the content by our students. So we have then recently started as well to do the student indabas. In certain areas, we have done them physically, like in Gauteng and in KZN, and then we are still continuing to do others, like, for example, in Limpopo, and then in other areas where we've got very few number of students. We are not neglecting the students, but we will, however, do the student engagement via the student in Daba virtually, in order for us to try and understand what are other issues that UNISA students are battling with that lead to that drop in the pass rate. And then lastly, what I just want to bring to the attention of the alumni and also to our students / colleagues is the fact that a UNISA qualification on its own is not viewed any inferior to any other qualification from all the other universities. The reason why we are emphasizing on saying it's not viewed as an inferior qualification is that we have noticed that some of the students, they lack the confidence that they should have when they are carrying the qualification from UNISA. And just as a point of reassurance, on top of the fact that our qualifications are accredited by SAICA, I would like to emphasize a critical point that across the issue of qualifications, when SAICA accredits UNISA, or when SAICA does its inspection, they do the same inspection using the same basis, using the same tools and mechanism as they do with other universities. I'm sitting in front of you today as being a proud alumni of UNISA, and then I've got two qualifications with UNISA, which is my BComt, as well as my postgraduate qualification being the CTA. And I got these qualifications when I was studying, when I was working full-time, when I was already a mother of two, and on top of that, I was a wife to a big child. Normally, husbands or spouses, big kids, because those, when the days are tough, yes, they will offer you the utmost support, but when you don't give attention, they nag like a 2-year-old would throw tantrums. But at the same time, I would say to you, I'm blessed to have qualified under those circumstances. There's one candidate who raised a question when you guys were engaging with, I think it's Maite, the previous speaker, and that candidate, I'm not sure if it's Robert, if I'm not mistaken, who was saying he's in his late 20s and is considering pursuing this CA qualification. I would like to just share a bit of a story for 1 minute before we wrap up about the issue of the SAICA accreditation. When I did my articles at SARS, South African Revenue Service, and then I was during my 3-year article, I was seconded to the AGSA, Auditor General South Africa, for a PFMA season in 2016. Which was very, very hectic because it was from those audits at the AGSA that I would leave in the wee hours of the morning sometimes late at night, as Maita has indicated, that articles are very difficult. So I did my CTA before I could do my articles. And when I passed my CTA, which I attempted 4 times, I passed it on my 4th attempt. I then went to do my articles at SARS. In 2015, when I did my articles at SARS, I was the oldest trainee amongst my group of colleagues at the time. And then I was even older than my training officer. However, my conduct was not depicting of my age at the time. And I look at age as just a number, and that should not be an impediment to you. You should actually look at your age if you are more matured or older, and say, this age should come with maturity to me. Therefore, I'm going to use my maturity as an advantage or as a motivating factor in order for me to push harder. When you are older or when you are more matured, you become more focused, and because of that focus, it channels the right energy in the right direction for you to achieve your qualification. So I just wanted to touch on that so that colleagues who are already above 25, for example, and they think they are old, they should not think that age is an impediment. And as Maita has indicated that she is now moving towards investment banking, I come from a health perspective, health background. I've done my first degree at Medunsa, Medical University of Southern Africa, which is today known as University of Limpopo. My first degree is that of radiography. Those people who take x-rays in hospital, that's me, that's what I used to do. And I worked as a radiographer for more than 15 years. So when I changed to do this career that I'm in now, that of a chartered accountant, I had to dig deep because first and foremost, I didn't have accounting as a subject from school. I was coming from a maths and science. But because maths and science had given me a very solid foundation, and because of my humility and my perseverance as a human being, I managed to be where I am today. And I have worked myself up. In 2014, when I was doing my last attempt of CTA, I applied for a job at UNISA as a student assistant. I had to cut down on my salary, but be in an environment that will enable me to consult with the lecturers, in an environment that will motivate me to focus and study. And hence today, I'm standing in front of you and saying to you, if I did it at my age, therefore it is possible for all of you joining this call to do whatever that you want to do, for you to be able to attain whatever dream that you have set for yourself. And the issue of the SAICA accreditation, it should never even be any of the things that becomes a challenge to you. Don't even consider it as an impediment. UNISA is accredited. UNISA has got a long history that it has of producing majority of CAs in this country, and majority of them being African chartered accountants. And that does not mean UNISA is not focusing on producing chartered accountants from other races. No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is we are contributing even in the transformation agenda of this country that we cannot run away from. And all I'm saying is, as we're sitting here together today, I'm saying to those who are students registered with UNISA for any programs that are accredited by SAICA, that should not be a challenge to you, that should not even be something that becomes stressful to you, or that should be something that becomes like a concern to you. what you will just need to focus on, it's basically to focus on your studies and know that the issue of accreditation is something that is been taken care of by UNISA. UNISA management continuously engage SAICA to make sure that if there are any more concerns that may arise from SAICA, we together handle them in order to make sure that UNISA stay accredited. Remember, the accreditation for UNISA is not accreditation purely for UNISA, is the accreditation for the continent as a whole. So where we are sitting, we are simply saying that the accreditation challenge is something that UNISA will always take seriously. It's something that our college will always pay attention to. And if there are challenges, UNISA management supports our college, which is the College of Accounting Sciences, in ensuring that we continue to stay accredited. So I'm not standing here and saying there were never issues. I am standing here to say to you, yes, there were concerns which were raised by SAICA, but UNISA has attended to them. UNISA continuously strive to improve and to make sure that we stay accredited for each and every child sitting at any corner of this country who wants to qualify as a chartered accountant to be able to choose UNISA and study through UNISA and become a CA. So I struggled, yes, through my journey. As I indicated that I did CTA 4 times, but today I stand in any forum throughout the global stage and compete like any other chartered accountant who might have done CTA once. There's no way you know today that I have done it 4 times because I disclosed to you guys. However, and it's something that I carry with pride. In every year that I was enrolled to do CTA, I was gaining more knowledge. And when I passed in 2014, I was more wiser and more matured. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to stay on the call for any questions from our colleagues.
Wow, wow. Today I'm just being moved. I don't know about wherever you're sitting, I'm just being moved and inspired. It's all in how we respond to the challenges that we face in the road to success, to education, to academia, how we respond. You know what? I look at you and I'm like, it's possible. Hey, it is possible. And you've just said that to our students. There's a lot of love shown to you. I'm sure there are a lot of questions as well. Students are inspired. We need to actually have this kind of conversations more often. I think that this intervention, the Indaba intervention, it's actually inspiring a lot of people. From what I've just heard, for the very first time, I'm hearing you speak and I'm moved. I know that there is a possibility. You know what? I don't want to mess up this whole space. Let me just allow students to actually engage with you. Oh, but wow, we really appreciate you. And the transparency in what you're saying. Okay, let me go to the chat box and see what the students are saying about you. All I can say is there's a lot of love and appreciation and encouragement received in this space, and they actually appreciate you. They're inspired as well. There's a question, ma'am, whether it's referred to you. They're saying if the SAICA is SAICA. If you can respond to that, Ms. Gabberty.
Okay. I didn't get the question. Is it the one that was written on the chat? I think they were talking about a SAIPA.
Fall under SAICA.
Let me just try to go to.
Yes.
No, SAIPA is another professional body. I wouldn't say competing because they are not competing. SAIPA is another professional body which, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've also just renewed or done their inspection beginning of this year through UNISA qualifications that a student can register for that fall under SAIPA. So SAIPA is the South African Institute of Professional Accountants. So it's you'll do your normal BCom as well, but you then don't do the CA stream, and then you'll become a professional accountant, and then you'll do your normal financial statements, etc. But you don't fall under SAICA, you then register with SAIPA. I know that there are audit firms, some of the audit firms, they offer both articles of SAICA and SAIPA. You would then choose, but then the qualification itself is different, the SAICA and the SAIPA.
All right, thank you so much for that. I'm sure Nompendulo is also answered. Thank you so much, Ms. Kabetu. You know what, I don't want to contaminate the space because the energy flowing, it's so positive, you know, it's so moving. You know, someone just shared that, you know, I really appreciate this amount of transparency, Mrs. Rameshwarana. So encouraging. I have 20 years of experience of beauty industry, and now in 2022, I'm starting my new journey, pursuing accounting qualification. Currently 38, by the way. I'm married with 3 children, but I'm encouraged to work harder, you know, because you just showed them, you know, sometimes we need evidence that something is possible. And what you've just given us today in this platform is that it is possible, it is doable. And let's see how we respond to challenges. However, it's session. Thank you so much, Ms. Garrett. Let me just remove you from the stand and drink some water and continue to listen. But however, if there are questions, please help us in answering them in the chat box, and understand that you are actually committed. But then, however, we really appreciate your response. But then there's the last question that I'm going to take from Modri. He's asking, or he or she is asking, which qualification allows you to sign off on financial statements?
It depends, because it necessarily depends on the roles that you get. And some people who are doing that SAIPA qualification that I have spoken about, they are allowed to sign off on financial statements, but it also depends on the role and the entity that you'd work at. But if you take, for example, smaller companies, most of the SMMEs, what they do is, because of the issue of capital constraint, they would not necessarily afford a chartered accountant, but they have a professional accountant who is someone that would have either have a qualification at SAIPA, or some of them, they register with another professional body called SAIBA, which is South African Institute of Business Accountants, if I'm not mistaken. You can still sign off on those financial statements, depending on whether you a member in good standing within that particular professional body. So you don't necessarily have to be a chartered accountant, and but you can still sign off under SAIPA or SAIBA. So you need to do your qualification, whatever the degree, and then you do whatever articles, as I indicated, that professional audit firms have got various articles, and then you can then just sign off on them, as long as now you are a member in good standing, meaning you should be affiliated to one of these professional bodies. So I will just try to check for, I think I've put one email address for the one for CTA. I'll put on the chat another email address that takes you to case inquiries at unisa.ac.za. With that one is for general college inquiries, and in there you can even ask for more information regarding the various BCom degrees, to say which one will take you to what stream. So I'll put the email address there so that you can be able to engage UNISA. And remember, the the application season for 2023 is on. So if you are registered currently, you need to just apply. If you are going to, maybe you are completing this year, you want to do another qualification next year. Remember, you'll never get old to learn and to study. As I'm sitting here in front of you, I'm a registered UNISA student doing my master's. Hopefully I finish this year so that next year I register for my PhD. My ultimate wish and goal is to become a professor at UNISA, and that is not far from my reach. And and my experience as a radiographer has assisted me to be a better professional, to have a very good ethic. That's why today I'm sitting here and I'm a chair of department. Majority of the colleagues that I'm managing, they used to teach me. So anything is possible.
Yes, you've just proven that anything is possible. You've just proven that. You know, giving us hot seats right now. We're like thinking, are we studying? What are we doing? You know, always tells people that always account for your time in your life. Just say between this year and this year I was doing this. Don't say I wasn't doing anything. You know, always account for your time, which is very important.
Can I quickly just respond to Nompendulo Mguni? Nompendulo has asked the question, if I'm understanding correctly, do I need to pursue to go through SAIPA if I want to pursue a career in taxation? The answer is no. If you want to pursue a career in taxation, SAIT will be your friend. I've put in the answer of SAIT on the chat. Nompendulo can check it. I know you've got a smartphone. You can quickly Google who is SAIT and then get in touch with SAIT. I think when you Google them, there'll be a platform for you can chat to them there immediately. So Nompendulo, you check SAIT on Google and their contacts and you'll get more information there. They're the ones who specializes in tax in the whole country. Most of the tax practitioners, they are affiliated with SAIT, and tomorrow you will get a presentation with my colleague. Prof. Bula is coming tomorrow to do some presentation around tax practitioners, and there's another colleague doing the SAIT presentation, a person from SAIT. So pay attention and attend tomorrow. Thou shalt be sorted.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garrett. So thank you so much for the presentation and your spontaneous response to the questions in the chat box as well. Let me just allow my attendees to give you some love for the very last time as we release you from the stand. Some love for Ms. Garrett. Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again. Let me just ask my colleague to share the program for tomorrow in the chat box. Thank you so much. Let's just share the program for tomorrow in the chat box so that our attendees can know who is coming tomorrow. Unfortunately, Saika will not be presenting today or tomorrow. It's time for the feedback. My colleagues, be ready with the poll questions. I think 3 questions left on the poll questions. So we did have, we're doing the last part of it. Can you kindly share the first poll? Thank you so much. So, the poll question has been posted as well in the chat box. It reads as follows. What else would you like to learn more about? I will need to see some responses so I can move on. Okay, the typing question, it's unlike the previous ones where you just choose. So you just type into the, okay, I'm seeing a response there about Psyche. Kindly put it inside the poll, type it there. Where it's written, put your answer here and then submit, because we actually compile the responses. This helps us improve on our workshops. Okay, it is noted. Rod, please kindly put the comment inside the poll so that when we compile all that you would like to learn more about, we also compile it. Yes, which makes it easier for us to improve when we look at the improvements for the next workshop. Colleagues, the next question should be the last one. Okay. The last question reads as follows. Okay, any other comments or suggestions? I'm only seeing one response so far and 8 responses on the previous one. We have actually come to the end of the session. I'm just going to ask our head of counseling, Dr. Pitswane, to come and do a vote of thanks. So that was the last question. It says, how do you prefer to attend workshops? Do you prefer online or hybrid? Hybrid meaning both in person and online, which makes it easier for those who are not able to come to the campus. They can connect online, but requires data. And those who can come to the campus actually go to the campus and join up at the campus. Seeing responses are coming up. Okay, let me just request Dr. Pitswane to come to the floor and give us a vote of thanks to this beautiful lineup today. Dr. Pitswane, are you in your midst?
Definitely, I am, Cheryl.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you to you too for having run this workshop so magnificently. Yeah, it was quite a workshop, a very insightful one. Coming to the end of day one of the accounting professional workshop, an expression of gratitude goes out to our guest speakers for affording us the time, participation, knowledge, and expertise, for sharing their vast knowledge, which comes with the ability to guide our students with regards to their chosen career. The professionals from FACET and also from IRB, SIPO, as well as BOSIN, who really gave us an insight on the registration processes and for highlighting bursaries and internships available for students. We appreciate you. And the other professionals, Auditor Ms. Buitumelo Gumbo and CA Ms. Maitele Shabane, who shared their journeys and experiences with their chosen field, sharing information on the challenges they faced and streams to take in the vast spaces within the accounting profession. You are really also appreciated. The UNISA College of Accounting, Ms. Keba, you having been the last speaker, you really encouraged our students, and we are so thankful for having taken your time out of your busy schedule. We know quite well that you were in a Senate meeting, but we were able to make time for us. We really are very, very thankful for that. And a great thank you to our students for attending and engaging with our speakers, hoping that you have absorbed all relevant information to assist you in your journey. To the organizing team, really, really a job well done. And to our students again, please join us for day 2 tomorrow, where we have invited more professionals to impart their knowledge. And we hope that you will definitely join, and the information that you are actually receiving and gaining would impact in your life journeys. With that, allow me to officially close day 1 workshop. See you tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye, colleagues. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.